This is going to sound insane, but stay with me. This apartment, $650,000. The same apartment 4 years ago was half, $325,000. I mean, what? So, obviously, I did not buy it 4 years ago because I was being financially responsible. Saving up for that down payment, waiting for the right time. Which, by the way, is exactly what they wanted me to do. Be patient, save your money, do not take on debt. Meanwhile, something else was happening that nobody told me about. I know this sounds just like another housing is expensive story, but something about this felt fundamentally wrong. Because I did the math. In 2021, I needed $65,000 for a down payment. I was saving $1,000 per month. I was exactly 5 years and 5 months away. Today, with the same savings rate, same discipline, but the down payment is now $130,000. I am somehow further away than when I started. How does 5 years of disciplined saving make you poorer? That is not how math is supposed to work, unless the rules change when I was playing the game. So I started digging, and what I found does not just explain my apartment, it exposes something that challenges everything I thought I knew about how money works. Because here's the thing about that extra $300,000 in the apartment value. It did not come from nowhere. Money does not just appear. If that apartment did not get $300,000 better, if the materials did not get more expensive, and if the location did not change, then where did that money come from? And who decided I should not get any of it? Okay, quick science. Remember conservation of energy from physics class? Energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transferred. This is the most fundamental law of universe. This governs everything from atoms to galaxies. But somehow, money can be created from nothing. Federal Reserve balance in March 2020, $4.2 trillion. And Federal Reserve balance sheet in December 2021, $8.8 trillion. They created $4.6 trillion in 21 months digitally.
Where does it come from? Do you just print it?
We print it digitally. So we as a central bank, we have the ability to create money digitally. And we do that by buying treasury bills or bonds or other government guaranteed securities. And that actually increases the money supply. We also print actual currency and we distribute that through the Federal Reserve banks.
Now, if you or I tried to create $4.6 trillion in our basement, we would go to prison for counterfeiting. When they do it, it is called monetary policy. Here's why this broke my brain from a physics perspective. If about $4 trillion in purchasing power appeared, but no new goods or services was created to match it, that purchasing power had to come from somewhere. It got transferred from existing money holders to new money holders. The apartment did not get better. My dollars just got weaker. But here's what did not make sense at all. If this was just another inflation affecting everyone equally, then everyone should be equally affected, right? But look at these headlines from the exact same period. Billionaire wealth hits record high during pandemic. Tesla stocks surges 1,000% in 2 years. Real estate investors buying properties with cash while private equity firms purchase entire neighborhoods. So if we all got hit by the same monetary expansion, how did some people get massively richer during the exact same time period? This is not equal impact. This is wealth transfer. And if it is wealth transfer, then somebody designed it that way. So I dug deeper and I found something in the old economic textbook that explains everything. The Cantillon Effect, named after Richard Cantillon in 1750s. Here's what he figured out nearly 300 years ago. When new money enters the economy, it does not spread evenly. It flows through specific hierarchy. Whoever gets the new money first can buy asset at old prices, and whoever gets it last pays the new inflated prices. And here's exactly how they executed the largest wealth transfer in human history. Level 1, Federal Reserves create money digitally. Simple keystrokes and boom, $4.6 trillion appears. Level 2, this money goes to primary dealers. These are the biggest banks. At 0.25% interest rate, this money is essentially free. JP Morgan Chase, Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, Citigroup, Morgan Stanley, you name it, and they got the money. Level 3, these banks lend to their biggest clients first. Corporations, hedge funds, people who already have assets as collateral. And then the money moves to level 4. These clients use cheap money to buy stock, real estate companies, and they are betting against regular people with money they got essentially for free. Finally, we come to level 5, where the asset prices explode. You're saving lose purchasing power. By the time any of this reaches regular wages, everything worth buying has already been bought. I was at level 5 and so are you. We are all waiting for this money to reach us through wage increase. By the time I saw any benefit, the apartment that I was trying to buy doubled in price. But here's what made me realize this was not accidental policy. This was coordinated. On March 15, 2020, Federal Reserve announced unlimited quantitative easing. March 16, 2020, the European Central Bank announced 750 billion euro emergency program. On March 19, 2020, Bank of England cuts rates to 0.1% and restarts money print. On March 20, 2020, Bank of Japan expands bond purchases. 4 major central banks and 4 consecutive days. The exact same decision. So the scale of coordination becomes clear when you see the global numbers. United States, they ended creating $4.6 trillion. European Union, 4.1 trillion euros. Japan, 135 trillion yen. And UK, 875 billion pounds. That is approximately $20 trillion in new money created globally in less than 2 years. And here's something most people miss. This coordination was not hidden. Central bank governors were literally on video calls together, coordinating policies. The meetings are documented. The transcripts are public. I have been doing a lot of research. There is only so much I can fit in one video. So if you want to see me to dig deeper into such topics, hit the subscribe. And if this is blowing your mind right now, share it with someone who needs to see how their wages do not compete with free money given to big institutions. The timing proves this was not some accidental side effect. This was wealth extraction with mathematical precision. US billionaire wealth in March 2020 was about 2.9 trillion. By March 2024, it was 5.5 trillion. Total gain of about $2.5 trillion. Billionaires captured over half of all newly money created. Every dollar they created made my savings worth less and their assets worth more. Let me put this in perspective. Elon Musk's wealth went from $25 billion to over $400 billion during the same period. That is more wealth gained than most countries' entire GDP. Why? I was saving $1,000 a month. He was gaining $1,000 every few seconds from asset inflation funded by newly created money. That is not entrepreneurship. That is proximity to money printer. But I needed to understand who actually benefited from this system at the ground level. So I looked at the data. From 2020 to 2021, when rates dropped to historic lows, mortgages hit 4.4 trillion, the highest in history. 40% of home purchases were made by investors, not owner-occupants. Let me give you a concrete example. Invitation Homes, one of the largest single-family rental companies in America. In 2020, they owned approximately 80,000 homes. In 2021, they purchased an additional 17,000 homes, many with all cash offers. Their stock price during the same period went up by 89%. Where did they get all the cash? Well, they simply borrowed it. Money that was created by the Fed and flowed through those 24 primary dealers to their corporation clients. They were smart. They positioned themselves to receive newly created money first through leverage, then the system rewarded debt and punished the savings. S&P 500 for the same period was up by 80%. Real estate prices up by 47%, and Bitcoin over the same period was up by 600%. Here's what happened to regular wages during the same period. Median household income 2020, it was approximately $68,000. Median household income in 2024 was approximately $75,000. Total increase of 10% over 4 years. Every asset went up crazy high, and your wages barely made it into double digits. So if you own assets purchased with cheap debt, you won. And the gap between those two groups is not luck. It is not intelligence, and it is not work ethic. It is proximity to newly created money. So at this point, you are probably thinking, fine, if you cannot beat them, join them. Just buy assets. And here's the trap they built for people like us. That apartment that is now $650,000, if I buy it right now with 30 years of mortgage at current rates, my monthly payment is approximately $4,000. If I had bought the same apartment in 2021 at $325,000, my payments would have been $1,800. So I am not buying an apartment. I am buying someone else's money printing gains. And I'm paying $2,400 extra every month for the privilege of owning an asset they already inflated in the first place. So the advice to just buy asset means pay inflated price for the things that went up because other people got it for free. And that is when I realized this is not a bug. This is the system. There are only two games being played. Game one, create actual value. Work, build things, solve problems, save money. Game two, position yourself close to newly created money. Buy assets that inflate from money printing. Every major policy now favors game two. They have built a system where creating value makes you poorer and extracting wealth makes you richer. So, here's the real question. What happens when getting rich has nothing to do with creating value? When wealth comes from how close you sit to the money printer, not how much money you create for others. Look, I do not have easy answers. I cannot tell you how to beat the system rigged at the foundational level. But I can tell you this. Seeing the mechanism changes everything. Once you understand how the money flows, you cannot unknow it. Everything I showed you is public record. Fed balance sheets, primary dealer list, central bank coordination meetings, and billionaires' wealth. They are not hiding it. They are just counting on you not connecting the dots. So here's what I did. It is not financial advice, just what I personally decided after learning all of this. I stopped keeping cash in checking accounts because it lost purchasing power. I started learning more about how markets work and started investigating opportunities like bonds that can be bought directly from governments, not through banks. And this gets money first. I also started studying how to better invest, how leverage works, how asset financing works. It does not solve the systematic problem, but it is my small act of resistance against financial ignorance. So this is what I found when 5 years of saving made me poorer instead of richer. What is your story? What moment made you realize the game had different rules than you thought? Share it below. Let's map out how many people got played by the same system.